Welcome to the Human Meme Podcast. I'm David Bowles, and today we will take a look at how childhood experiences are formed. In Not My Thing. In the spring of 1973, in a public school in Lincoln, Nebraska, a teacher handed me a paper armband and told me to wear it for the rest of the day. Mine was blue, and it carried a single printed letter, an S. The children with brown eyes wore brown bands lettered M. No one explained the letters to a room of 8-year-olds. I have spent the rest of my life arriving at what they meant. M for master, S for slave. The next morning the roles reversed, and the children who had ruled became the ruled. No one in that room was black. The teacher said the lesson was empathy. I want to talk today about the book I built out of that morning, and out of 50 years of watching that morning return in new costumes. It is called Not My Thing: How We Teach Cruelty to Cure It, from the Armband to the Diversity Seminar. That armband was one early specimen of a method that has since grown into an industry. You know its other forms, even if you have never counted them as a single family. The blue-eyed and brown-eyed demonstration that a teacher in Iowa ran in front of television cameras. The privilege walk where children step forward or back while an adult reads out the accidents of their birth. The poverty simulation. The mock slave auction staged in a 5th-grade classroom. The prison tour sold to frightened parents, the Gestapo role play with a real Jewish child cast as the villain, and the sensitivity seminar that working adults sit through to keep their paychecks. The politics of these exercises run in every direction. The machine underneath them holds steady. Every one of these exercises assigns a cast by accident, a letter, an eye color, a card drawn at random. An authority is installed that no participant is allowed to refuse. Cruelty is licensed from the front of the room, and an audience is gathered for whom the humiliation is performed. Then comes the reversal that gives the whole thing away, because the adult can switch the suffering off at the bell, which tells you the suffering was a performance from the first minute. The title carries the argument. Not my thing is what a tired adult says to excuse himself from caring. And I know that reading of the phrase. I mean a sharper one. At 8 years old, handed a blue band and ordered to fetch water for a brown-eyed boy who could have me whipped, I stayed in my seat and refused. My teacher called the punishment the shame of history, a phrase that meant nothing to me then, and means too much to me now. The refusal in the title is that one, the child who will not play and pays for it. I press 3 charges in the book, and I will state them without hedging. The first is a reversal hiding in plain sight. In 1968, the same year the Iowa exercise began, Paulo Freire published Pedagogy of the Oppressed and warned that the oppressed cannot be freed with the oppressor's tools, because those tools carry the oppressor's logic into any hand that picks them up. Coercive moral teaching is built from exactly those tools. It assigns rank by birth, enforces that rank by authority, rewards the cruelty of the favored, and stages the result for a crowd. There you have the architecture of the thing it claims to oppose. I call it a pedagogy of the oppressor, and the cause it serves does nothing to soften what it teaches, because a method teaches its own lesson, and the lesson here is obedience to cruelty. The second charge is that the cure makes the patient worse. Medicine keeps a word for an injury caused by the treatment itself, and the empathy exercise earns that word. The research that went looking for the warm afterglow of these games kept finding its opposite, a hardening, a backlash, a fresh resentment in the people the exercise meant to open. Order a person to feel the right thing under pressure and watch him brace against you. The manufactured feeling does not turn into understanding, and often it blocks the road there. The third charge is the simplest, and the one the whole genre cannot survive. Each of these exercises depends on the absence of the people it claims to be about. My Lincoln classroom could teach me how it feels to be black only because no black child sat in it. One black student in that room would have collapsed the pretense in a sentence, because for that child, the game would have stopped being a game. A mock auction needs no descendant of the auctioned in its seats. A Holocaust role play needs the survivor's grandchild safely elsewhere. The exercise wants an audience that can be told what to think, and the presence of the subject turns that audience back into a person with a claim. Here is the sentence I keep returning to. A classroom is no place to build a cast, not for a day, not in play, not even with the kindest intentions at the front of the room. I am hard on the method and loyal to its goal. That goal is honorable. The wish to raise children who can feel another person's life is the finest wish a teacher carries into a room. What the method does is break that wish, because you cannot teach the refusal of cruelty by practicing cruelty on a child. So what takes its place? The cure runs quieter and slower than one vivid afternoon of role play, and it asks more of the teacher than the spectacle ever did. It begins by putting the subject back in the room, present and named, the way a costume on a stranger can never be. Performance gives way to attention, and the staged feeling gives way to the patient work of learning a life from the testimony of the person who lived it. The cure prefers the book, the interview, the visit, the long acquaintance, over the quick and forgettable jolt. None of that photographs as well as a child in a paper armband. All of it leaves the child whole. That is the book. It ends where it began, with an 8-year-old in a blue band who would not fetch the water, and with the slow conviction that the band should never have been printed in the first place. If you teach, if you once sat through one of these seminars and felt the resentment climb in you and wondered whether you were the broken one, if you have ever been handed a costume and told it was a conscience, this book is for you, and it stands on your side. Not My Thing is out now in paperback and for Kindle at bowlesbooks.com. Read it, argue with it, and write to tell me where I have it wrong. I would take that argument over easy applause any day. For the Human Meme Podcast, I'm David Bowles, wishing you a fair evening and a righteous tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Be a human meme.